For millions of visually impaired Americans, the most basic of everyday tasks can be anything but. Understanding these difficulties can help you provide empathetic assistance.
There are 10 million Americans who are visually impaired, so it's likely that you will find yourself assisting or working with someone who has trouble seeing. Sight difficulties range across a broad spectrum, from a complete inability to see to basic color blindness. The term total blindness is used when an individual cannot perceive light or forms. Light sense blindness means that a person is able to sense the presence or lack of light, but not make out forms. Both of these types of visual impairments usually fall under the umbrella term legally blind. A legally blind person has vision of 2200 or less. That means that he or she would have to stand 20 feet from an object to see it with the same degree of clarity as a normally sighted person could from 200 feet away. Other types of seeing impairment include hand-powered and index value blindness. A person with either of these disabilities will only be able to make out shadowy forms very close to their eyes. A defect of visual field can occur in any part of the eye and usually causes a person to have a blind spot, or small area where they cannot see. The least severe form of sight disability is achromatopsia, commonly known as color blindness. Achromatopsia can be total color blindness, red-green color blindness, or blue-yellow color blindness. No matter what type of visual impairment a person has, the biggest challenge that most visually impaired people cite is walking, an act that most of us take for granted. A white cane is a universal symbol that indicates sight impairment. It also helps a blind person to collect information about his or her environment. Some visually impaired people also use sight dogs to assist them. It is important never to pet or feed a seeing eye dog, as they are on the job all the time. If you encounter a blind person, it is polite to offer to help if they look like they need assistance. If they refuse, allow them to do so graciously, without pressing the issue. You may have noticed studded yellow blocks in the pavement in your city or town. These blocks serve as guidance as a blind person walks, and as a caution at hazardous areas. Sometimes, a visually impaired person may need assistance finding those studded blocks. Feel free to provide this help if it seems necessary. When handling transactions with the sight disabled, be patient and keep in mind that they may need more time to count money or to locate belongings. Allow them this courtesy, remembering to keep your voice enthusiastic and offering help only as needed. Sight disabled people have many obstacles to overcome in daily life, but by being aware and offering a helping hand, you can create a harmonious environment for everyone.
Is deaf or hard of hearing. For this reason, it's vital to learn how to communicate with the hearing impaired.
For the 28 million Americans who are hearing impaired, communication and comprehension can be a daily struggle. You can help ease that burden by being knowledgeable about hearing impairment. Sound is a very important sense. It is how we initially become aware of the world, and it is the method through which we learn to speak. Even unborn children respond to sound. People who are deaf or very hard of hearing cannot do many of the things that we take for granted. They can't respond to a fire alarm or a doorbell, or answer someone who speaks to them from behind. There are 3 basic types of hearing loss, and each has different results. Conductive hearing loss occurs when sound is not shuttled efficiently through the outer ear canal to the eardrum and the ossicles, or tiny bones, of the middle ear. Conductive hearing loss, which may be caused by factors like infection or impacted earwax, results in a reduction in hearing. Most people with this type of hearing loss find that hearing aids can help magnify sounds. A more severe form of hearing loss, sensorineural loss, involves a reduction or complete loss of the auditory sense, and can also impact the ability to understand speech. Sensorineural hearing loss occurs when there is damage to the inner ear, or cochlea, or to the inner ear's nerves to the brain, the auditory nerves. It's often present at birth or occurs following disease. The third type of hearing impairment, mixed hearing loss, occurs when there is a conductive hearing loss in combination with a sensorineural hearing loss. Hearing loss is further measured by the severity of the loss, which ear is affected, and if the loss is sudden or progressive. Whether the impairment is stable or fluctuating is also taken into account. When speaking to a person who is hearing impaired, make eye contact while talking and watch the person's expressions. Body language is silent, but is still a meaningful component of communication. You'll also want to be sure to speak slowly and clearly, enunciating your words. It's probably a good idea to raise your voice slightly, but don't shout. If you're conversing with a person who is hearing impaired, be sure that the conversation is just that. Allow the other person to speak and gesture as well. And keep in mind that you can talk with gestures too. Even if you don't know sign language, using your hands to demonstrate meaning can be effective. Finally, find a quiet place to converse if at all possible. Because many people with hearing impairments use hearing aids, which tend to pick up background noise, a quiet area can make a world of difference. By being aware of hearing impairments and making an effort to converse and interact with people who have them, you'll make a positive impression on both your lives.